Hi, friends. This will be a little talk about my understanding of a contest or an opposition between Plato and Milton, Paradise Lost. These two books have found their way into my life, into my library. I don't know how they got here. I mean, I bought them and all, but I'm lucky to have them. So I'm going to start off by saying that philosophy itself was invented as a way to avoid sexual matters. In Plato, many places in Plato, Socrates is always talking about how glad he is that he doesn't have to, in his old age, worry now about sexual matters. My angel Bertha helped me figure out about the reason philosophy was invented. So you have also local invention, which has suffered with the invention of universal standpoints and perspectives of view of philosophy and philosophic ideas of philosophers, says my angel Elaine. Experience itself suffered, and this is what the pragmatist John Dewey was trying to bring back, those personal hands-on experiences to get away from that kind of philosophical and philosophical point of view of universal standpoints. How do you talk about or share personal experience in any way other than the practical? For theory in light of practice or praxis will disappear because theory is universal if you share it, or talk about it in a way that more than the practical can matter. So the problem of the weather and the climate is a kind of problem of this problem of practice. The illusions of weather and of universal weathers, in some sense. And then this gets into Milton's Paradise Lost now. So Paradise Lost was all local. You didn't have like these universal kinds of like elements that Plato had invented as a way of doing things. Plato was all practice, Milton was all practice. Plato was all theory. So you have like man's fall is into the universalization of theorizing, and Eden was the personal experience and practice. So Milton's story, Paradise Lost, is about that fall from practice into theory, which scientific empirical facts is a mixture. So science is kind of like a middle ground between Platonism and pragmatism, between theory and practice, between truth and justification. So the unfallen state would be the Shekinah. The fallen is maybe autism or kind of like a mixture of universal philosophies. Pleasant thinking as an alternative to thinking of personal experience, being in personal experience and the facts around you. It's what the philosophers invented, that pleasure of thinking, isolated from the external world. This philosophical pleasure, or peace of mind even, is inferior, though, to the unfallen state of being in Eden, actually. And then I started thinking about Harold Bloom's The Anxiety of Influence. I wrote down Emerson's conclusion of nature, where he says, build therefore your own world, because this world exists for you, the nature. And then there's this problem of isolation, a problem of being isolated from the natural community, from the community, the Shekinah even. I've got these books that have come into my life, like the ones I just showed. There's a bridge between my angels and me and my friends because of the writing that I do, where writing is a kind of connection, a bridge that links me to my friends, but they're not. It's not the same as having live friends in this area here, unless you count like neighbors of the community. So copying, like writing down, and the profession of scribes is another note I put down here. There's a historical problem of experience, poetry as imitation, says Aristotle, and that there are copies of things is just as much an illusion as there are different weathers elsewhere, is what Elaine wanted me to write down. And Emerson has this quote, insist on yourself, never imitate, in his essay on the self-reliance. Then I started thinking about the void and matter, the void and the atoms, which is a theme of Epicurus and Lucretius. The void is what is not around you. Matter, therefore, on the other hand, is what you experience personally, the atoms, even that are falling through this void. That's Lucretius in a sense. This page, too, would be part of that matter. And then Sigmund Freud's idea of the triple idea of the consciousness and the unconsciousness and the preconsciousness all fit into that same relationship between void and matter. So I was wondering where my old piano, I was saying to myself that my old piano is now in the void. It's not here. I've got a new piano. Relevance is praxis or practice, and praxis or practice is relevance. So my angel Elaine was telling me to write down. So a Gnostic Shekinah is a knowing Malkut, which is a community, so the community is knowing, an up-to-date, and that knowing community is up-to-date with all personal progress possible of the individual. Shekinah is not illiterate. The influence of Plato inspires me. It helps me breathe better. And then I was thinking about probability, that the probability that the noise is not an Autobot that sometimes bumps around. It's something I wanted to think about. And then I've got this quote, we are not the Autobots, says the Shekinah. Art surprises me because I'm not that good with science. Reverse Hawaiian sonnets, the sliding door heard. So in a sense of a sliding door can be mapped to a line in the Hawaiian sonnets. This is like something I'm going to work on later, but I just put it down. Study all these events mapped into Hawaiian sonnets, because you can have the sound of a Hawaiian sonnet phrase happen, but you can also write next to it yes or no on a different one. No, a different one might say no. So if you have a question and you hear the first line, a question answer to the question would be yes. The other one would be no if the line sounds. Anyways, naturally Hawaiian sonnets is what Emerson says. And Hawaiian sonnets and personal use only is what Yaffa said. It's for personal use. Mode marketing, which is a list of the different sounds in the environment, how they can link up to the advertising and eventual selling of my books, because I've got a lot of books and there are a lot of sounds in the environment. These books' titles become the sounds. So when I hear like a door slam, it's there's a book called It's Not a Prostitution Ring that we wrote. That would be like the moat marketing for that book. Anyways, these are local events. Friends and old families are opposites. Friends are fame. Fame is opposed to family. The old times were the prisons which we were in. John Milton, who wrote Paradise Lost, offers hope for literacy and gnosis, which is knowing. Plato offers only a historical breath and the meaning of backtracking into a warning of the backtracking into the oblivion of the universal universe, which is a non-personal universe, a universe of death, or maybe even an illusion. Thanks for listening.